And we begin with breaking news. A Hawaii man has been arrested in a cold case murder investigation stretching back 40 years. 75-year-old Gary Ramirez is now in police custody after authorities in Santa Clara, California linked him to the 1982 murder of 15-year-old Karen Stitt. She was last seen in the Bay Area town of Sunnyvale, and the next day her naked body was discovered with 59 stab wounds in the neck, chest, abdomen, and back. And investigators also say she was sexually assaulted. DNA evidence from blood and bodily fluid linked investigators to Ramirez. He was arrested last week at his home in Makawao and expected in court on Wednesday. More details on this case are available on our website, hawaiinewsnow.com.
Good afternoon. Thanks for watching. This is Now. We have even more breaking news to get to from the H&N Digital Center. A tragedy on an Aiea trail.
Yeah, Honolulu EMS confirmed moments ago a body was recovered on Waimano Ridge Trail, and it's believed to be the man reported missing last night. Dylan Ancheta joins us with more details. Dylan.
Yeah, aloha, guys. We did get that update just minutes ago. EMS officials said they found the body around 11:20 a.m. This is believed to be the body of Nate Yuen. They said he was dead upon arrival when they got there, when they found him. This is a heartbreaking development for friends and family, many of whom gathered this morning to search for him. Now, loved ones said Yuen was last seen around 7:10 a.m. Sunday morning. His car was found near Pearl City High School on Waimano Home Road, near the trailhead of a hike. Family members said the 61-year-old is a very experienced hiker and was familiar with the area, so they think it's unlikely that he got lost, but rather he might have been injured while out and about, which prevented him from coming home. Yuen is well known in the Native Hawaiian and environmental communities. We're told he's done a lot of work with the Sierra Club. HFD sent multiple units to search for him early this morning, and of course the community members came out around 9 a.m. this morning to continue that search. They searched on land and by air, and unfortunately this tragic discovery was made again around 11:20 a.m. Now, it is too early to confirm if this discovery is that of Yuen, but again, EMS officials say the ages match. The 61-year-old man, again, was found around 11:20 on the trail. We are working to get more details, and we'll bring you any updates on the Hawaii News Now mobile app. For This Is Now, I'm Dylan Ancheta.
All right, Dylan, thanks for that update. We have even more developing news to get to. Former President Donald Trump is the focus of an FBI investigation into how he handled classified materials.
Yeah, that probe led FBI agents to search his Florida home for evidence. Here's Skylar Henry.
Congressional Republicans are slamming the Justice Department and calling for investigations, one day after the FBI searched former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago, Florida residence.
I want to know what led to this. I think every Republican believes that the FBI, when it comes to Trump and other organizations, have lost their mind.
Sources tell CBS News the search was connected to a Justice Department investigation of claims by the National Archives that it found 15 boxes of records, including classified material at Mar-a-Lago earlier this year. The former president and his family publicly blamed President Biden and the Democrats.
They want to attack a guy who they view as his greatest threat, is Biden's greatest threat.
But a White House official tells CBS News they were given no heads up.
The president was not briefed, was not aware of it. The Justice Department conducts investigations independently, and we leave any law enforcement matters to them.
Executing a search warrant on a former president's home has never been done before, and given the political nature of this search, approval likely came from the very top of the FBI and the Department of Justice.
For them to do this, the Department of Justice, the FBI, every I was dotted, every T was crossed.
Under the Presidential Records Act, documents received and sent by the president are required to be preserved. Since the search, protesters for and against the former president have gathered outside of Trump-owned properties in multiple states. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Washington.
Unfounded accusations of the 2020 election being stolen have possibly fueled interest in volunteering as an observer. Hawaii election officials say the Republican Party sent about 200 people to be volunteer observers, when typically the number is less than 50. After President Trump claimed widespread voter fraud, many conservatives, including Hawaii Republican candidates, said there were problems with missing ballots.
Some of them came in thinking, there was a lot of fraud, and corruption, conspiracy. They had all of these things that they didn't really understand about it. And basically, once they saw the process, once we saw how they opened the envelopes, how they separated the ballots, how we stacked the ballots up, and how they processed them, it kind of opened their eyes, and they said, oh yeah, well, this is good.
I've seen a lot of evidence that it was not accurate, that there has been a lot of, they got it on film, where they stopped counting and then all these tens of thousands of votes came in. It was all for one person. There's just too many questions. So I can't say whether definitely there was cheating or not, but something was wrong.
There is no widespread evidence of voter fraud, and the chief elections officer says Hawaii's elections are secure with audits, paper trails, observers, and security. And don't forget, Hawaii News Now will be tracking all the major races across the state this Saturday night. Join us on primary night for the latest results and in-depth analysis on air and online.
Sources tell Hawaii News Now the gun scare in Waikiki may have stemmed from a drug deal. Law enforcement identified 27-year-old James Spivey as the man tackled and arrested by HPD. He's in custody today. Video from Sunday shows the suspect opening the door of a squad car, yelling at police to shoot him, and also lunging and swinging at an officer. Witnesses tell us it all started when Spivey began arguing with an alleged drug dealer next to a beach pavilion and then pulled out a gun.
And, just cussing at each other. The gentleman wearing the black beanie was wearing a black backpack. The black backpack, he took it off, he put it in front of him. I just heard him saying, I'm just so tired of you disrespecting me. He took the gun out. I was just waiting for the gunshot.
No shots were fired, but sources tell us Spivey was hospitalized under police guard.
As tensions on the Taiwan Strait continue, Taipei held live fire artillery drills in the country's southern region Tuesday. Taiwan's defense ministry says these drills are regular exercises that are aimed at boosting the military's readiness, and they are not in response to China's recent escalation in military exercises around the island. Well, the U.S. is making a giant investment in microchips. President Biden signed an act Tuesday aimed at boosting U.S. competitiveness over China in the semiconductor industry. A foreign dependence fell during the pandemic. Here's Naomi Ruckham with more.
We're leading the world again for the next decades.
With the stroke of a pen, President Biden is bringing chip manufacturing and research back to American shores.
It's in our economic interest, and it's in our national security interest to do so.
The $280 billion CHIPS and Science Act includes around $52 billion in subsidies for U.S. computer chip companies, $24 billion in tax credits for new manufacturing facilities, and tens of billions of dollars for research and development.
We're going to construct an entire semiconductor ecosystem right here in the United States of America.
Manufacturers aren't wasting any time. Tuesday, Micron announced a $40 billion plan to boost domestic memory chip production, and Global Foundries, in partnership with Qualcomm, is expanding a plant in upstate New York. But these investments aren't likely to solve the pandemic-induced global shortages right away.
Just the complexity of technology, that it takes years to put capacity on. And I think for the better part of the next 5 to 10 years, we'll be chasing supply in this industry.
Chips are needed for just about everything we use these days, from cars and consumer electronics to medical equipment and military weapons, even kitchen appliances.
There's ovens with cameras that you can view what's baking, and almost all the refrigerators have computers, circuit boards in them now.
And modern living is putting increasing pressure on those tiny chips. A recent Commerce Department report found demand for chips was as much as 17% higher in 2021 than it was in 2019. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News, New York.
A ban on disposable body boards is now in effect in Maui County. Boards made of polystyrene cannot be sold or rented any longer. Officials said the ban was created because the boards can break easily and spread foam on the beach and into the ocean, creating an environmental hazard. The ban was passed unanimously by the county council last year. Time now for Unraveling Your Traveling. Let's turn things over now to CBS News Senior Travel Advisor Peter Greenberg with more on what lawmakers are doing to hold airlines more accountable for situations that we saw like in the summer with all those long delays and cancellations throughout the travel season. Here's what he had to say.
Well, there's two parallel things happening. One is a bill introduced by Senators Markey and Congressman Cohen that would require airlines to issue immediate refunds if they cancel your flight for any reason. Now, there is DOT rules on this already, but this would solidify it as a piece of legislation. But the most pressing one is the one issued as a proposed rule by the U.S. Department of Transportation, which requires airlines to refund money if they just delay your flight by more than 3 hours, or if they change your arrival or departure city. That's a big departure from previous rules, and it would require airlines to redefine the word delay in consumers' favor. So that's good news. I have to give you one caution, though. Under DOT rules, federal rules, in fact, now that's open for a 90-day period for people to make comments, so don't expect immediate relief. The earliest this rule can go into effect is probably the end of this year.
Peter Greenberg with always the good travel advice, tips, and knowledge there. Want to take you live outside, and I just took a reading of the weather as we take a live look at the nation's capital. Get this, guys. It's 10 degrees warmer in D.C. right now than it is. No, not a typo. 93 there, 83 here in Honolulu. Wow. Sticky stuff there in D.C. All right, so we do have a disturbance that could make some changes to our weather. I want to turn things over to Guy Hoggy with more on that.
We are tracking a possible disturbance, the one we told you about earlier, expected to form to the south of us. But you can see, too, that it's going to stay to the south, most of the moisture, excuse me, and the winds, however strong they are, they're going to be. So we're in for more mostly dry weather for the next several days. Now, keep in mind, with those breezy winds, we'll likely see a few overnight and early morning showers, mainly for those windward and Mauka neighbors. But for the most part, we're going to see fairly dry conditions, especially dry for those drought-stricken leeward areas. And high temperatures still running into the upper 80s. Summer is in full swing, no doubt. So again, the breezy winds will hang on today, tomorrow, and on Thursday. A slight decrease in wind speeds, just a slight one, coming in Friday and Saturday. The overall weather pattern is not going to change very much. And then the winds bounce back again the first part of next week. And hopefully we see a few more showers come in on Monday.
Australia is mourning the death of 70s pop star Olivia Newton-John, who spent many of her years in Melbourne. Reed Butler looks back at her career and her legacy as an advocate for cancer treatment.
Well, Olivia Newton-John spent her formative years here in Melbourne. She moved here as a really young girl from the UK, and arguably she has left her legacy here too. The Olivia Newton-John Cancer Wellness and Research Centre behind me. Countless patients have come through this cancer centre to receive life-changing treatment, life-saving treatment as well. And we've spoken to many of those patients today who are really feeling the death of Olivia Newton-John. In many cases, she was their hero for helping them and also for tirelessly fighting to help research and fund cancer research here in Australia and around the world too. Olivia Newton-John loved Australia, loved Melbourne, and Melbourne and Australia loved her as well. We spent the day at her primary school today in a suburb called South Yarra, and her impact on that school is even everlasting. There is a scholarship there in her honour. We've seen flowers being laid here at the cancer centre as well. Politicians paying their respects here in Melbourne tonight. I think around 15 landmarks will be lit up in pink in her honour. So it is clear that Australia does love Olivia Newton-John, and her death is being greatly felt here, especially considering she grew up here in Australia.
The Flash, Ezra Miller, is in trouble with the law again. Authorities accused the star of stealing alcohol from a house in Vermont. State police say they were alerted to a possible robbery in May, and then they discovered bottles were missing from the residence in question. According to a police release, surveillance video gave officers probable cause against Miller. The 29-year-old is ordered to appear in court next month for arraignment. You'll recall earlier this year, Miller was arrested in Hawaii County and charged with disorderly conduct and harassment, although the latter charge was dismissed. Tonight in primetime on KHNL, America's Got Talent moves into its next phase. Mark Barger talked to the judges about what to expect.
Usually by the time AGT's live shows start, Howie Mandel has a pretty good hunch who will wind up winning. But this season, it's a tougher call.
In my mind, there are 6 different acts that are worthy and could possibly win.
Part of that's because everyone's only performed once so far. The Golden Buzzer acts obviously made an early impact, but they face the challenge of topping themselves and doing it live.
And I think each and every one of these people and acts has a hope and has a dream. So when you talk about pressure, there isn't even a word to describe what they must be feeling.
11 acts will perform each of the next 5 weeks on the same Pasadena stage where they auditioned. But just 2 acts will advance each week to next month's finals, and America will choose them all.
Anytime I can hand off the responsibility of somebody else saying no, I'm thrilled.
And he's hoping there's more thrills to come starting tonight.
There's only one act, $1 million that will go on and perform in Vegas. And America, this is going to be your toughest year yet.
The performers will be aiming to make that choice as tough as possible. Mark Barger, NBC News.
Hey guys, let's see what the internet is talking about today. And before we do that, real quickly, I have to mention KHNL tonight. There's another premiere. Password, the new game show, premieres right after America's Got Talent.
You have a full slate of programming right here on KHNL. So 7 o'clock, America's Got Talent. Password right after that.
Yep, at 9 o'clock. All right, now to the internet and what they're talking about. Britney Spears is all the buzz because this is what she's up to. The legendary pop star is reportedly on track to release a new single very soon in collaboration with, you saw it there in the video, Elton John. The song is titled Hold Me Closer, which is, of course, is a play to Elton's legendary track, Tiny Dancer. And it's her first release since 2020. We're still waiting on an exact release date. Sounds interesting. I haven't heard, Elton John's a rocker, but he's also pop, but I've never heard the fusion with something so Britney, so dance pop.
And finally, some Britney Spears music-related news, considering all the headlines and all the stories we've seen over the last several years. So,
yeah, and Elton John's obviously supporting her through everything she's going through because he's doing this song with her. So we'll see what it sounds like or hear what it sounds like.
On standby, right? Now moving to the sports world. Huge news today. Tennis icon Serena Williams has all but said she's on track to retire. In a Vogue article that dropped today, the 23-time Grand Slam champion said she will evolve away from tennis after this year's U.S. Open. And she also posted this on social media, and the article is appropriately headlined, Serena's Farewell, I'm Terrible at Goodbyes. Now, she added on Instagram that she aims to focus on motherhood and spiritual goals. The 40-year-old is slated to play in the U.S. Open, which starts on the 29th. So what a run right there. Yeah, what a decorated career. One of those athletes that really does transcend sports. You know, really just a pop culture icon as well. And really
I didn't see the Will Smith movie about her dad.
Oh, yes. No, I thought it was very well done. But, yeah, I mean, having Serena Williams, let's call it a career, you know, moving into the next phase of what her career is going to be now.
Makes me feel old. Because I remember when she was very young.
Oh,
up and coming.
And just, I mean, you're talking about sustained excellence, right? So, going to be a huge loss. But, yeah, definitely a big farewell in store at the U.S. Open. Now to Hollywood. Actor James Franco, he stepped out of the spotlight for a little bit, but is slated to make his return For a unique role, he's set to play Cuban dictator Fidel Castro in an independent film titled Alina of Cuba. There's backlash about the decision from many in the Latino community, as Franco is not Latino. However, Alina Fernandez, the namesake of the movie and the daughter of Castro, supports the casting, saying he bears a physical resemblance and he also has charisma.
Even more entertainment news to get to. This one from here on the islands. There is a young star that's shining bright in Hollywood. Billy V got to talk with her.
We're getting a chance to talk to a Kauai actress who is home. She's involved in some pretty huge productions. Sienna Ogawadong is here. Yay! Nice to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
How does it feel to be home?
I'm so happy. It's automatically, as soon as I walk off the plane, I feel the humidity, and I'm like, yes, this is it.
We're going to talk about you being away, and we're going to talk about that coming up in just a little bit. But I kind of want to focus on home for a little bit. Mm-hmm. First of all, what is the first things that you do when you get off the plane? What are your first thoughts when you get out into the airport and actually see home?
Oh my gosh, I've never gotten that question. I love that. I think I immediately unpack, for one, just to kind of get my space clear, and like I have my room set up and whatever, but I go to the beach, honestly. I go straight to the beach because most likely I'm missing like Hawaii water. Yeah, I think I just explore, really. I go on a hike usually the next day. Kind of just like the classic settling back in kind of thing.
Let's talk about the acting for a little bit. First of all, since I haven't had a chance to talk to you since it's been a while, I don't think that you were doing Fast and Furious yet. You did a cameo in there.
I did.
And so how was being on that set? How was that energy?
It was so nerve-wracking. I actually didn't know what I was auditioning for and what character I was playing. So, I mean, it's nerve-wracking to just be on a set like that and with such respected crew members and cast members, you know. But then knowing that I was playing this younger version of Mia from Fast and Furious, there was a lot of pressure on it because I was like, oh my gosh, you know, she's already a well-established character and yada yada, but I learned so much, even just about myself as an actor on that set, and like watching everybody around me. I think that is where you get your greatest lessons, is just watching those people around you.
What the ambiance is like, how they act around other people and peers and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Wow. You're known, before Fast and Furious, you were in a lot of things that were with Disney. Mm-hmm. But then now, as you go to Resident Evil, it's quite a different genre altogether. How did you prepare, or can you even prepare for something like that?
That's a good point. Actually, that's usually what I say. I don't think there is any preparation in it. And I tried so hard to find it, but there really is none. Like, for Disney, you know, being on a network like that, there are certain things that teaches you, and the energy, you know, the big acting, all of it. But I think just getting a few years in with Disney Channel and Nickelodeon, like, I was able to learn the grounds of the film industry while also just having fun, you know, with everybody around you. And it's just very lighthearted. And then moving on to something like Resident Evil, where it's constant on-screen chaos and violence and emotional scenes, you know. It's very different, but you realize that all you really have to do is just let go of all control, because that's the only really way you can feel an emotional scene.
Billy V, you can catch his interviews with all sorts of celebrities on his new video podcast, Billy V Live. We shared the link to it every Friday, almost every time he does one on Aloha Fridays. You guys, that's it for This Is Now. Mark Carpenter, thanks for filling in. He's back first at 4 on KHNL.